States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
County Commissioners Court. We do have proof of posting in accordance with Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code as amended, also known as the Texas Open Meetings Act. Is that correct?
Yes, we do.
Thank you, ma'am. Today, I think we have a request. Commissioners wouldn't mind to go to item number 7. Talk about the release of Atmos/Watkins bond. They've pipeline has come through. They've completed their work.
Right.
Commissioners are happy. Just a good. This don't happen all the time. You know?
It sure don't. Y'all done good. Too. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Atmos has done great. Watkins has done great, and we do appreciate it. And it's good. We can. Like I say, we've got a lot of them we've had for years. Never been able to release. In this case, we can, and y'all did what you said, so we do appreciate it.
Thank you.
On that, just for this one item, we will come back to number 7. We have a motion to release the bond for the pipeline. That line went through. Do we have a bond number on that?
It's
Several roads.
Precinct 1, 4, and 2 that it went through.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. It went all the way across mine.
If I remember right, I think we did a blanketed one that covered the whole county.
Yeah, we did.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. But that was with Watkins as the contractor, because also today on item number 7, Atmos is here again for a bond that we approved once they turned it in at last court. And so we have received that bond, and there's nothing else to sign or anything.
I make a motion to release Watkins. I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carried. And then while we're on the subject, we've got Chad Wright with Atmos Energy here. And again, the bond that we approved last court for Atmos in the contractor of the pipeline was CMC?
Capco.
Capco. Capco. So the bond is in place. We'll file it today with the county clerk's office. I have a motion to accept that bond.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye? Motion carried. Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate y'all coming and doing what you did.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you all.
Now we can, we're starting meeting.
You bet. I appreciate it. Everything turned out good.
Are there any public comments before we start on the agenda this morning? If there are none, we'll go to item number 1 to approve the minutes of February 11th, 2026 special meeting.
motion to approve minutes of February 11th special meeting.
I second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carried. Item number 2 is budget transfers and amendments. We do have a budget transfers. We do have a budget amendment. We also have a certification of additional revenue. The certification of additional revenue is a $1.2 million amount that we received from Cyrus One. This money was sent to us for emergency services. We previously stated in prior report that $300,000 of this money will go towards a fire truck for Southern Oaks Fire Department. The other $900,000 will go for upgrading radios so that our first responders, our volunteer fire departments, our ambulances will be digital now instead of analog.
Because they were having trouble communicating.
Yes.
They couldn't.
We had our sheriff's department digital a while back, so this gets everybody communication better, safer for everybody on the same scene.
So is this here, I mean, they will be able to start ordering stuff?
Correct.
The money's here.
The money is here. We already have 3 or 4 quotes on the radios. We'll be looking at them. Along with those handheld radios, there are some couple of modifications to our motor sights and our repeater sights on the tires that will have to be tweaked so that everything will work correctly. We'll also have to put a little additional antenna on the tire behind dispatch so that they'll have a handheld that also just as a redundant system in case the system goes down. Anyway, so we're gonna look at that as a whole, but
Well, they looked at making sure we had communication up around the lake.
That's one of the main reasons why we went digital that day is I asked Leonard about the communications and he said, well, if we all go digital, it'll be a lot better. And that's what we decided to.
Because they've been struggling up there.
Yeah, they have been struggling for years.
The digital part will help tremendously. There'll be a couple dead areas still in the county that we gotta look at, but it'll help so them.
It'll be basically wherever cells signal.
And the tire up there at the lake, you know, they said it was interfering with some of our stuff, the one they put up.
yeah, somebody put one right above us and it's
Right.
operating at 2.
Are we still gonna operate off of that tire, or are we gonna put another one up?
We'll still be operating off that tire. Last week, Department of Homeland Security came out with multiple grant opportunities. One of those being for upgrading communications. And so I got with our TDM liaison. He said we definitely qualified to put in for that grant. So then we got with Larry Smith, first management coordinator. He's in the process of filling out that paperwork, so we will be applying for a grant, hopefully to put an additional tire at up around Richmond Chambers Lake, as well as in the Butler area, because that's our 2 weakest spots. And so hopefully that will.
I talked to Van this morning, and he was in Nacogdoches in that red truck. That's where you talked to the guy, and he went over there yesterday and met with them, and just about everything's finalizing on after court. I'll tell you everything about it. I mean, he's got it just about ready to pull the trigger on.
Yeah, the $300,000 out of this 1.2 that's going for Southern Oaks Volunteer Fire Department's truck. We had already contacted a company that is on the tips board so that we don't have to go out for bid. We've utilized this dealer. I know Precinct 2 and Precinct 3 have trucks from them. And so that's where the truck was kind of built to their specs.
Right,
So we'll
and that, you know, and they're the first responders for up there where that's gonna be. And so, it's gonna, and they needed it, and so it's a win-win for them and for the county that's saving much money on fire trucks.
That being said, is there a motion to approve the budget transfers to certification and motion?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, aye? Motion carried. Item number 3 is to approve and pay bills. Or two sets of bills. The bills look a little bit high this time. It's because it's that time of year where we receive quite a bit of tax collection at one time. Rather than just letting that sit dormant, we'll be purchasing $300,000 to $500,000 CDs. That's why it's a big order.
What kind of rate do we get?
3 point.
It was 3.51.
For how much time on 6?
6.
And then what we did, we split that because we're trying to keep the amount of CDs we have on hand equal to the amount that we have in a TechStar, TechLogic, to keep it
That's
even.
why we didn't go with text pool, trying to about keep it where it's not all one place.
Next pool was like at 3.4, 3.3.
They're the cheapest out of the three.
Yeah,
Logic was,
Technically.
Logic was up in the 5s.
yeah, so we're going better money per day there. It's just not guaranteed. It changes every day. But we are diversified as much as we possibly can be, not only on CDs versus the pool money, but as well as 6-month CDs versus 9-month CDs and 12-month CDs. So we're trying to keep that diversified as well.
Keep it staggered.
Yes.
I think we have 2 more to do end of this month. We'll have to renew on CDs, but because we moved that money to the text pool, it'll just be a renewal. See what our best rate is.
The thing about it, if we, as long as we got some in text pool, we can get it.
Get it.
And then we can just prior to maturity on the other CDs, we can get that other anytime.
Point out that we also spent a ton of money. I've got it total in the office on out-of-county housing for inmates and
43,000.
medical costs for inmates. It's a wound that we don't have a Band-Aid for.
63. Morning, Aaron.
Morning, how are you?
Good. Good.
One of them must be sick, $30,000 bill.
Was it $3,000 or $5,000 bill, one of the ones that was sent that prior to the start of our fiscal year
On what bill?
on the inmate medical?
What was the question?
Some of those were, did y'all receive some old bills?
Yeah, 24. A lot of them are 25 bills, and I guess they had sent a bunch, so a collection agency or something, they were going through someone different, and so they went ahead and sent over all bills showing that we hadn't paid. Most of them are 25, there's a few 24 bills in there as well.
123.
One I did remove, and the rest of them we'll have to see.
I contacted,
They're gonna have a discount or something.
Well,
I contacted the administrator up there, and they said that we had a good chance of getting them dropped, so give me a number to call. I called that person, that was on Monday. I didn't receive a return call. Richard and I were in class yesterday, so I'm gonna call again today. But just to let them know that, you know, our books closed January.
Yeah.
That's when we finished out, you know, the previous fiscal year, so hopefully that there'll be some of that that can be written off.
Cause it's, well, it's on them, I send them the bill.
Correct.
Sheriff did tell me last night, the one that the inmate that we had over 900-some days, he's gone. And there were, I think there were 5 of them, 5 looked out yesterday.
That's what you call, it's about time.
Make a motion to pay the bill.
I'll say.
Have a motion second, all in favor, aye? Motion carried. Item number 4, to approve payroll.
We did that last week.
We have no payroll. No action on item number 4. Item number 5, is reports. Two reports. One is from Justice of Peace Precinct 1, John Thorne. The other is from Justice of Peace Precinct 3, Cinnamon Archibald. Any other reports? A motion to accept these reports.
I'll make that motion.
I'll say.
Motion second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carried. Item number 6 is burn ban.
No action.
Sounds like a no action. I will say on burn ban, there was a couple of situations where some of our local people that their livelihood is agriculture, they burn off pastures every year, they dig sprigs, and they plant sprigs for other ranchers. And anyway, they burn based on what we always do. I did get with Erin, the extension office. She was extremely helpful, and we're going to look at creating a permit that kind of fits our county and legally.
And I hate the word permit. All they're trying to do is make sure that fire departments don't get called out
Right.
when they're not needed. Because the other night, it's 8 o'clock, and they got called out, and dispatch didn't, it was called early in the day, well, they didn't, I guess the next shift didn't know, and we did, I mean, whatever we gotta do to create a deal where dispatch and the fire departments are all on the same page.
Yeah.
I hate the word permit though, but
I
I guess you gotta
understand.
call it that.
Yeah.
No money, it ain't no money.
No, it won't be no money. It's, again, it's to prevent unnecessary calls for.
Yeah, cause they called out, the other night, later, they called out you, Donnie, and Tig.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
Just kind of ensure common sense as well. Don't burn no more off than you can burn in the day, burn in daylight hours, and don't leave the fire unattended. Have equipment there to put it out yourself if something were to happen. So it's just to make sure that people are taking precautions. It might mitigate, there might be certain people that we're gonna burn that won't, just because they don't have everything they need to do it themselves. If they don't, then maybe they need to hire somebody or whatever, but there's a proper way to do it.
It's a shame we gotta do a burn ban, everybody ought to have enough common sense to, I mean,
Is the
not
extension
us, we have to
man,
do this, I guess.
is she getting guidelines to, and who's gonna approve those guidelines?
We will, we legally, Commissioner Court can create their own guidelines for burning during burn ban. And, so we have a copy of Washington County's, permit, and, a few things that we want to change for ourselves, but hopefully we can have that ready.
Isn't there an exception to that rule? If you get an ag exempt, there's something that I know people has come and got before and signed, turned it in, and it was because it was ag exempt. It's if you're growing grass or it's to burn off brush piles or things like that, in the past, they can get one.
That's what we're operating on right now. The thing of it is you've got 4 entities. You've got the Department of Agriculture, who does not have anything close to what we're wanting to establish. Theirs is 40 hours of credit and makes you licensed to start a company and burning off pastures for people. It's not a user-friendly website. Then you've got Parks and Wildlife, who issues permits for burns. You've got the
Texas Forest Service.
Texas Forest Service, you've got the TCEQ. So that's the 4 entities that
The less
They want you to go to their permits.
the better.
we're trying to make a way for people to do what they need to do through us and not have to reach out to those other
Yeah,
legal.
we'll get them involved.
Does anybody supersede them?
We do. I mean, they're still for ag, and it doesn't give you the right that's just my update on the burn ban, is that we're, put something together that y'all can agree on.
We're getting close to the time of year where we shouldn't have to worry about it too much longer.
That's right. No action on item number 6. Item number 7, special road use and agreements. We have covered 2 of them today. This also covers permits and bonds. We do have an official bond and oath from the Western Surety Company on behalf of Kelsey Atkinson, our auditor. That's all I have. Are there any other road use contracts, permits, or bonds to consider?
Sharon, did we ever hear back from Brent Judd from Diversified, that Nancy deal?
I have not heard, excuse me, I have not heard back from him yet.
Okay. I'll make that motion.
Accept the bond.
Accept the motion.
Accept the bonds. We already done the pipeline. Accept the bond for Kelsey Atkinson. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor, aye? Motion carries. Item number 8, to approve bonds, education certificates. I have 2. I have a CJIS, security and privacy certificate for LaTanya Jenkins. That's CJIS security and privacy for Pam Shavers.
Make a motion to accept the certificate.
Motion and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carried. Item number 9 will be to appoint a county health authority, which is previously tabled multiple times. Karen, do we have that packet? Is it?
I can grab it real quick.
You got any takers?
Yes, yes. No, we're in good shape.
All?
Dr. Hall,
This thing don't pipe. So,
right, it's a non-paying position. Don't know that we've ever, I personally don't know of ever having to contact health authority for anything.
I don't know, but this,
For the county,
Yeah.
this is more for if there were some type of outbreak in the county. The health authority is who we would look at for
Guidance, for guidance.
Yes.
Okay. We ain't clean here no more, so we can't.
Yeah, I'd say it's not a real desirable position to hold.
Y'all have to pay me something.
Dr. James Hall, he practices in Navarre County. He is involved in just about everything you can think of up there, from with the sheriff's department, their emergency management. Again, he is a medical doctor. He kind of got his hands in everything, and just when you meet him, you just think of him as being a workaholic. But he's a very kind and giving person. He has agreed to take this position. All I can say is I would highly recommend and ask for y'all to approve Dr. James K. Hall as Freestone County's new county health authority.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion second, all in favor, aye? Motion carried. Item number 10, discuss, consider taking possible action on going out for bids to repair, replace a bridge on Freestone County Road 533.
And sorry, Commissioner Bonner, we discussed this at length. I went ahead and put it on there. I figured it was time. Just want to make sure that's okay with you.
No.
Previous discussions.
This is that bridge, this is that bridge.
That's that bridge.
Okay.
There's been some further research into that. There's been discussion with Commissioner Bonner and Judge Lane, and after those discussions, feel like it's probably the best to go out for bids to see what that is going to cost. As long, again,
How
as
long is it?
100 foot,
Do what?
100 foot.
Goodness.
The bridge led to nowhere.
Is that an inherited project, is it? You inherited it, right?
Well, let's put it, there hadn't been one for 9 years. I know of, and it wasn't theirs. It's, yeah, it's a little old deal.
Legally, it's the county's responsibility is what we get.
That's what it's been determined.
Right.
Okay.
yes.
Mitigate liability for the county in doing so.
Wow.
I make a motion, yeah. Is that what we're gonna do, Judge, make a motion, to go out and bid?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll make it.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to go out for bid to replace the bridge on the Freestone County Road 533. All in favor, say aye.
100 foot's what we said.
Motion carried.
Too close.
No.
Bid in vote. I'm not about that part.
You talking about temporary? Or how to do what now?
Yeah, we're good.
So we get right to the same.
Yeah, it's a bad word.
Oh, yeah.
Get the checkbook out.
We have a second on that.
I did.
Do the vote.
We did.
Okay, here we go.
Motion carried. Item number 11, to discuss reinvestment zones in Freestone County regarding green energy. I think this is primary to update the public, to reiterate that we see and we read a lot of misinformation. We see Leon County to the south of us going through a very difficult time because of a data center. I think we want to remind the public that all data centers are not the same. That particular data center,
I'd be waiting, we'd be trying to shut it down.
yeah, I think we would be against it too. Any data center that's going to take power away from the grid, which is everybody that's on the grid. Any data center that's going to use a tremendous amount of water, you know, if you're going to use more than a chicken house, that's probably too much. Any data center that's going to create a lot of noise, any data center that's basically in the wrong area, where it needs to be more isolated and away from the majority of the public. Lighting, as always, you know, that's something else. Richard and I went to College Station yesterday to the V.G. Young Institute, and we sat in on a 4-hour session. We done good as far as ours. We were fortunate that the type of data center that's coming into Freestone County is what it is, because it checks all the boxes. You know, it's not a noise maker, there's no T&D involved. It's not taking power out of the grid. Water consumption is, you know, equivalent to 4 households of a family of 4.
Have we opened this after church, have we talked about it in court since we?
We did, y'all did last year.
Yeah.
Did we? Okay, I couldn't remember.
I think the other thing that we saw early on, the solar farm, you know, there's still some issues in our county with that. But people need to know that once a reinvestment zone has been created, it can't be undone.
Well,
These moratoriums that people or counties are putting on, it's really not legal. There's a chance that they could be sued for actually putting that into place.
and Hood County shut theirs down after Attorney General. Best I, y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Hood County was trying to, they were talking about doing one, and
What year, 23?
I'm just recent.
Okay, so it's been recently. 'cause I-
Yeah, just recently, and then they shut it down after they got Attorney General, in my opinion.
How did they shut it, the Attorney General shut it down, or?
Well, they can't do it. And Van Zandt County did one, and if you read theirs, they've had a lot of fires, and they're going after the safety aspect. I think all that's gonna do is make them jump through hoops. I don't think it's gonna shut anything down. That's the only, they're going, it's strictly safety. Their moratorium is based on safety of the public, because they've had a tremendous amount of fires, I guess, burning the brush and clearing on the solar farms. But I don't know that it's gonna stop anything.
If they could fight the moratorium, because they're saying yesterday that it's, wasn't legal, correct?
Moratorium is not legal, and I don't know of the AG issuing a new opinion.
No, I mean, the opinion was
For
not
Van Zandt
good.
County, but that's.
Oh, no, I don't know about Van Zandt. I've read to do about Hood County. And, after the Attorney General opinion, the way I understand it, they backed off.
There was 2 or 3 opinions that they read to us yesterday, and they, I don't know exactly what they were, but they declined every one of them. I mean,
The
not
gentleman
shutting
said
it down.
yesterday that moratorium is not even legal for Commissioner's Court to not, you can do one, but you can't really enforce it legally. Have any grounds to say no.
That's a big stick to try to.
I think if we have any more come in, I think we should definitely sit down and really take a long look at it and just make sure that whatever's coming, we know exactly what it is and how it's gonna be done, if it even happens.
I hope after the tax incentives went away for the school districts, we don't see any more.
The federal government created this problem,
Yeah,
and it landed on us.
we got a target on our back.
Because we've got to respect private property rights, and therein lies the hard decisions.
Yeah. I don't think that there's any plan for any right now, because they took that incentive away, but when they get that massive line built through East Texas,
735.
it's.
We've got 2 under construction in the county right now. Now, be okay with me if there's not another.
Me too.
We've got 5 in the works.
9.
There's a couple of little ones. Counting the batteries.
Got the batteries.
But there's some of them that's not gonna
They
be,
got one already built right out here.
which didn't receive an abatement or.
Where's that?
That's it, right out going out Michael's Road.
Solar.
But that one's in the city,
It's
isn't it?
within the city limits,
Yeah.
but they did not ask,
Or anything.
for anything. It's fully
It's
taxed,
just built.
and nobody knows it's there.
No, nobody.
You know, as far as our data center deal, Lois got up in front of 200 people yesterday and explained to them and talked to them, and he's talking to another judge and an attorney, and they were, I mean, they thumbs up, you know, did a good job, so.
They're all different. That's what that's what I was trying to let everybody know. There's some we wouldn't want, you know, for those reasons, but,
There's a county up there, they're in the panhandle by the Taladera Canyon. They had a budget, yearly budget of $400,000. There's no industry in the county, it's all farm and ranch. I think they said 1,800 people.
what case was it?
They didn't say, and I'm not sure, or they said I didn't hear it, but long story short, because of the solar and the data that's going in up there, and this county judge was up there, he'd been through a lot, okay? But they'll be receiving $20 million a year. They went from a $400,000 budget to
$20 million?
$20 million. And he said that the biggest nightmare, the most important thing to plan for is how it's gonna populate your infrastructure, mainly meaning roads, because he said up there, nothing was off of a county road. But in building it, they opened up 3 caliche pits, you know, independent contractors. That affected their county roads. He said there was 1 ambulance in the county, and he said they had to get with the data people.
They have their own ambulance.
Yeah, they made them get their own ambulance, their own fire and everything, because it was more than that little county could handle. But it sounded like he done very well for the county, the way that he negotiated.
Fire trucks
And
were
because
40 years old now, everything is running.
there's more people actually working in the county that live in the county. More than 1,800 people actually up there on these construction jobs. So housing, you know, just everything, just like nothing they'd ever seen.
And they live in the next town over.
Yeah.
You couldn't, they had to live in the next
I
town
wonder
over.
what town it's in. The one thing that impressed me about the one that's coming here is those people were very transparent, very open, and they said that they would come back to our county at any time and answer any questions to anybody in a public meeting, which impressed me, that they were willing to work with us, and if we have problems, they were willing to work through those problems. I thought that was really good of them.
I just think it's important that the public know that we are not inviting any more solar.
Never invited them.
Or battery, never invited them again.
Or wouldn't we?
But if they come here, there'll probably be zero consideration for any type of abatement. Any more discussion on that?
I'd like to interject something if I could.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Bruce Ricco. So everybody needs to look at these solar panels from a life cycle perspective, which they don't. I mean, if it's just from a production perspective, they look fairly green. So manufacturing, production requires toxic chemicals such as hydrochloric, sulfuric acid, nitric acid, cadmium, and lead. The majority of solar panels are manufactured in China, not a friend of ours, mainly by coal-powered factories. Not green, right? Process of refining silicon significantly increases carbon dioxide emissions. I don't believe carbon dioxide is a pollutant, but a lot of the green people do. You got to think about environmental impact. One of these solar facilities over by Freestone Lake is 16,000 acres. Anybody doing the environmental impact statement over there? Okay. End of life is the biggie. Solar panels contain hazardous materials, lead, cadmium, selenium. Significant number are discarded in landfills. Landfills are going to leach that shit into your water supply, okay? Think about that. The cost of recycling panels often exceeds the manufacturing of new ones. And then batteries is another issue. There's a lot of toxic materials in the batteries. So look at it from a life cycle, not just from the production perspective.
That's our fear all along, is what's gonna happen down the road.
Yes.
Because.
We got issues. But we have I've got some solutions for you, so we can talk down the road to help clean up the runoff and the toxins. Okay? So I would say this is more of a polluted energy, not green energy. That's my opinion, the same. Thank you for your
I
time.
don't think there is any green energy, to tell you the truth.
No.
I mean, there's not much that a truck running up and down the interstate's gonna be hauling, and it's gonna be blowing that black smoke out. And that's how those materials get transported.
How they get produced, just like you're talking about, how, I mean, you know, if you
It's
add all
smoke
of
materials.
that.
Natural gas is more environmentally friendly
Yeah.
for soup to nuts than all of them.
All of it.
Agreed.
Keep that, you gotta
Agreed.
think about the entire life cycle,
Oh, yeah.
not just the production.
Yeah, yeah, natural gas is,
It's clean.
we thought that all
And that's
along.
what's feeding McAlpin, right? It's gonna feed the data center,
Natural gas, yes.
the natural gas. And on that subject, are there other, hyper centers being in the works at Freestone?
There's talk of NRG building 2 plants, gas units
Gas units
to, across the highway from the big plant
to accommodate
to accommodate
a data
a
center.
data center on their property. They've got 18,000 acres down there. And, plus, I know that's probably more than that, but, yeah.
Well, is it
It'll be
self-contained?
it'll be part of it being Leon County, part of it being Freestone County. I kind of think
If that don't change.
if that doesn't change.
And we have no way of knowing. We're
It's all early
one
on,
time, yeah.
and, it's out there, so we're gonna be transparent, that's all we know at this point. Cause there's a lot of street talk about it. We talked to them one time, and that was, and they
Didn't
didn't.
have her work.
No, it's just preliminary stuff.
I think they come just to see if we were 100% anti or would work with them. We didn't tell them either way, they didn't have enough details to give us.
My deal is, that we want to enter any, we want to find out what kind of data center. And I want to go tour, if it's a different kind, I want to go tour it before we do anything. And see, noise, they can talk all they want, but I want to go see what it's like. This company, most of them have multiple sites, and go lay our eyes on it and walk through like we did this one. That's the only way I know to try to get educated on this, because this is all new.
Again, something else, we talked about the federal government creating part of this problem. We can look at the state of Texas, our governor has invited a lot of this. When you look at the amount of people moving here versus the additional amount of water that they're gonna drink and flush every day. So it's people, but they're coming for these jobs. And the bond for any type of cleanup or end of life on these facilities, whether it be data centers, solar, wind, they're held by the state. So again, you take a rural county and you force Commissioners Court to approve an abatement, half the people are gonna be mad that you did, and then other half the people will be mad that you didn't because of the good things that would do for our schools and our hospital districts and local economy and all that. So I mean, you catch it on both sides, but at the end of the day, while we would all agree that, maybe there needs to be an additional bond that the county could call. But as of right now, it's the state holds that bond. It's no different than the Railroad Commission holding bonds on wells. The cadmium and the selenium and everything you just named off there, all that's in salt water as well. But, we drill wells, you gotta get the salt water if you're gonna get the gas. You can't have it one way or another, and then it's gotta be injected back down. And it spills, wells leak, and you've got abandoned wells, and those operators had bonds, but the Railroad Commission is not doing their part. They won't call those bonds, or they'll send somebody out there that does a halfway job, and they're not floating correctly, and then that issue pops its head up again 5-10 years down the road. So again, I want to say that the state is responsible for a lot of the end-of-life failures that we have right now. And this is just more coming. I appreciate what you said, and I agree with you, and especially about the green people, how they feel about carbon dioxide, because it's very
Plants
necessary.
need carbon dioxide to live, right? Without carbon dioxide,
Yeah,
plants,
we want trees
we
to
don't
grow,
grow, so-
yeah, I think we do,
Yeah.
yeah. I appreciate your comments.
Yeah.
thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Any other discussion on item number 11? Item number 12 will be to discuss bond money for the jail. Today, we are proud to have Ben Rosenberg with U.S. Capital Wealth here. He and I spoke on the phone a couple of times. This is just some, to educate us on what it might cost to move forward with the jail or the justice center.
All right. Thanks for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Ben Rosenberg. I do work for U.S. Capital Wealth, and just want to go through this little packet here, give you a little information about who we are, what we do, sort of the process of borrowing money. It is a process, and then I've dug in a little bit to your financials, and then I have a scenario in the back, say a what-if scenario of borrowing. What's that like? First off, U.S. Capital Wealth is a wealth management firm. We're a broker-dealer, which means I have access to the bond market. We'll talk about that in a minute. We manage about $10 billion of assets for high-net-worth individuals and institutions. That's our main business, but we do have one line down here, public finance, and so there's about 8 of us that do public finance. And what is that? That's helping cities, counties, and schools and other governmental entities with the process of borrowing money. We represent about 200 different cities, counties, and schools in the state. There's some listing in a couple down in the next section some of our schools, a listing of customers, and then some county names and references in the back there for section 1. The next thing I just want to talk about is sort of the process of borrowing money. Counties aren't really allowed just to go to the bank and borrow money. Plus, they're not going to give you favorable terms on what you want to do to borrow money. So our goal is just to listen to your needs, come up with a financing plan, educate you on the options, and take you through the process. I looked on the history. I haven't seen if you guys have ever borrowed money in the bond market at all. So I'm really great at helping step you through the process, and so it's the least amount of work on your end. And in the end, you get money in the bank, and you start on your project. We work under a professional services contingent fee contract. If you look at any budget of a contractor, architect, they're going to have just a line item for legal and fiscal. So there's a line item already in your budget for lawyers and for financial advisors, and so we just get paid out of the proceeds at the end of the borrowing. So you never have to write us a check, and if we don't bring you money, then you don't pay us. So that's not necessarily the best model, but that's the way we work. So on this page here, this is what I want to talk about, the process of borrowing money. This is the main page. Financing instruments commonly used by governmental entities. So the state constitution dictates and authorizes counties the ability to borrow money. And you're going to use one of these financing instruments. To you, it's going to be a loan. You're going to get money in the bank, and you're going to make payments twice a year to pay that back over 20 or 30 years, whatever you choose. But the Constitution dictates this, and the legislators change these rules a little bit every year, but these are sort of the basic rules now. The first item is a general obligation bond. Each of these have different rules and regulations on how you go about getting the money. So everybody's heard about a general obligation bond. It requires a vote of the public in May or November. So counties can only do odd number years. Now, the legislature talked about taking May elections away, bond elections away, and only having them in November. Right now, it's every November and every other May for counties that you could call an election. So it's your choice as a county court to decide, here's a project, and we want the vote of the public to approve this before we issue those bonds. May or November, you call elections, so it's about, the May elections are called in like February, the November elections are called in August. You have like a 2-week period. You as a court would call the election, and then if the election passes, then your instrument would be a general obligation bond. That's the instrument that you would use. And those are 40 years, up to 40 years in duration, based on full faith and credit of the governing body. You're going to pledge property, that's your main, so you're going to pledge property taxes to pay that. And that's a general obligation bond. If you don't want to take this to the public, or you don't have time to take it to the public, you don't want to have the expense of doing a vote, you can do a certificate of obligation. Again, it's a different instrument. It doesn't require a vote of the public, but it does require you to put a notice out to the public, say it's our intent to borrow this money, post it on your website, put it in the newspaper for 2 consecutive weeks, and you have to wait 45 days before you can issue the certificates.
That's what Leon County did.
Correct.
And we do some, my colleague works for Leon County,
Right.
and I have some lists of customers in here that I work with, but, you know, we've done, I think they either did a tax note, that's the next one. I think they just did a tax note, Leon County. But a certificate of obligation, again, goes up to 40 years in duration, full faith and credit of the government. As long as you go through this notice period, you would do a certificate of obligation.
You said up to 40?
Up to 40 years statutorily. The lenders normally only go 25 or 30, and you can't finance an asset longer than it's really worth, but statutorily you go up to 40.
Okay.
But normally the lenders like 25 or 30. Okay. A tax note is the third one. That requires no vote of the public and no notice in the paper. It only takes one commissioner's court to approve it, but it's a short-term 7-year financing. So you wouldn't do a jail on 7 years, you're gonna have a really big payment. So it's more geared towards smaller purchases, equipment, stuff like that, okay? So those are the 3 main financing instruments that the county would use. Revenue bonds require more like a water and sewer revenue bond. You don't have a dedicated revenue stream here, and then it really could support a note. There are warrants, there are lease purchase obligations, refunding bonds, but the main 3 that you'd be considering here would be a general obligation bond, a certificate of obligation for this type of project. Okay? Any questions on the instrument? Okay, and each of those have different rules and regulations and things that the court has to do along the way. And once you decide on that path, we work out a timetable and step you through that process. Okay? Now, method of finance. Where the money gonna come from? That's the second thing. As a broker-dealer firm, we have access to the bond market. What's the bond market? The bond market is basically a series of banks and underwriting firms that lend money to governments. And with use of technology now, we basically can expose your debt offering to the whole world, if you will. I had a little special utility district in East Texas. They did a $4 million offering and had 50 different banks participated in bidding on their offering. So we produce the offering documents. Now that does require a credit rating by one of the 3 credit rating agencies, Standard & Poor's, Moody's, or Fitch. So we select one of those, and as long as you have a credit rating, and I've looked at your financials, and I've not just looked at your most current audit, but if your last 5 years are similar to this, you have very good credit here, you don't have any outstanding debt, you have a good fund balance, so we can get you credit rated. So what that means is the bond market looks at that credit rating, and we put out a public offering, and we just bid it out. We like to do a competitive market sale, and you're going to get the lowest interest rate on any given day based on your credit and what's going on in the world market. So it's the most transparent, it's the cleanest, and you're going to get the lowest interest rate for your debt offering.
That interest rate is kind of running at how much?
Well, I have an example in the back, about 4.5 is what we're projecting if you're born today. It's sort of trending downward, but right now, if you're born today, what we've seen 4 to 4.5 range for a 20 to 25 year amortization based on your credit. 4 to 4.5, and that changes every day. Everything that's going on in the world affects interest rates. And so just since you brought it up, there's 3 things. There's a company called MMD, Municipal Market Daily, that sets the daily bond rates. Go online and look at it. 1 year to 30 year amortization, they set the daily interest rate. And nobody gets that rate, but based on your credit, you get as close to that. If you're a AAA credit, you get really close to that that rate. AA credit, single A credit, you get a little further away from that interest rate. So what goes in MMD? Everything that goes on in the world. Everything you read about Fed's gonna lower it, politics, bombs going off around the world, everything affects what goes in that daily rate. And then based on your credit, and then supply and demand, or when you borrow, when you go to borrow the money, that works into a interest rate scale that's fixed for you for 25 to 30 years. But that you don't lock it in until the day you sell the bonds. So it's all that stuff going on in the world until you just like a home mortgage. Once you set your rate, then it's set for you. It's similar to that. Okay. So another option is a negotiated method of sale. A lot of our competitors use that. You go to these trade shows. There's a lot of banks that go to these trade shows and they want to lend you money. Okay. And you can pick a lender, and we can work with you. But if they're an underwriter, just like a bank, I work under SEC guidelines, and I have a fiduciary responsibility to you to get you the best deal and the best interest rate, cater to your needs. An underwriter doesn't. An underwriter has to give you a letter stating that our interest isn't the same as your interest. Their goal is to give you a fair interest rate, but they want to make as much interest as they can. My job is to get you the best deal that's available on the market the day that you go to the market. So if you see some guys at trade shows and they're wearing suits like me and they say they want to lend you money, ask them if they're an underwriter or a financial advisor. It's a difference. We only do financial advisory work. We don't do underwriting. Okay. So, but if you like those guys, we can pick 2 or 3 of them and then negotiate rates with them on the time you go to market. Okay, it's a much more hands-on process. You have to really trust these guys. And then I would work with you and them, look at the daily rate, look at what's going on in the market, look what's being sold in the market, and get you a fair rate that day. Or we can say, sharpen your pencil and bid and hope you win. Right, so that's what we prefer to do. Okay? So that's, more likely, that's the method of finance I would recommend for you guys. If you didn't have such a good credit and you didn't want to go through that process, you could do what we call a direct placement. So we work with about 50 different banks that also lend money, and it's a little bit more informal of a process. We put together a term sheet, they do their own credit analysis, they don't require a credit rating, and then they'll issue a rate for you, they would bid on it. More than likely, they only like to go 10 to 15 years on a fixed rate. So again, maybe for more short-term borrowing, not as big a project, and you have good enough credit, I wouldn't recommend a private placement unless you had a small project you need to do, $500,000 or $600,000 or $1 million here or there. But for a big project like we're talking about, I would recommend going to the bond market, and we can take you to that, okay? And then lastly, is the federal and state governments, they offer funding for different projects. USC, I can't really recommend dealing with federal government for any reason, unless you just got plenty of time, you've got 3 or 4 years to wait for closing the loan. It's just dealing with federal government, it's very complicated. And they don't allow me to be paid, so they don't talk to me, and I can't help you with their process because they don't talk to me. TWDB is Texas Water Development Board, they do a lot of lending for water and sewer projects, probably not applicable here. They don't do roads, they don't do buildings, just water and sewer infrastructure. So that's a state agency, but at least I know those people and we can work with them. It's a little bit easier, but it's got to be for water or sewer. Okay, so any questions on financing instrument would probably be at your choice, a GO bond or certificate of obligation. If you want to wait till May or November to call the election, and then do a competitive market transaction. Get a credit rating, takes about a month to do that, and then we post a bond sale, and we bid it out, and you'll get the lowest interest rate available to you based on your credit and what's going on in the market that day. Questions? You don't look like you believe me.
No, I just, what's the credit rating of the United States? Our federal government, being 35 trillion in debt?
I don't know. It used to be AAA. I don't think it's AAA anymore. Probably AAA. Yeah. Our state's better, but it's.
How many goals in $4?
So the next few pages in that section are just about the people, process, and paperwork. I said it's a process. It's a whole. So depending on which method you choose, we're going to have all these people involved, and then we cater the process to meet your needs. And then at the end, there's a bunch of paperwork you have to sign. Of course, just like any loan and borrowing, you're going to have to do some paperwork. Then there's some list of references and customers and references in the back. And then I want to get into section 2. There's this quasi-governmental agency called the MAC, Municipal Advisory Council of Texas, and they're a data repository. It's geared toward the bond market. They keep all the data about every lending institution in the state of Texas. And so even though it's all public information, I'll show you some in a minute, it's all geared toward the bond industry, and we're a subscriber, so it's all information in one place. So this first page, the cover page, there's no borrowing. So you guys, they don't have any record of you guys ever doing any borrowing in the bond market. The next page, though, just show you some of the geographic information. They have a picture of the map, where you are on the map, and they have how many schools and counties are in the cities and schools are in the district. And they have your tax rate and your assessed valuation history for the last 25 years. Again, so this is public information, but it's all in one place for us to use for the bond market. So interesting thing here, you can see how your values have fluctuated. They've gone up and gone down over the years, but they're trending now, and what the judge has told me with your new data center coming on, they may be taking a high road up, so that's all good. And there's your tax rate history, so you can see, and in your tax rate area, there's maintenance and operations and interest in sinking, and it does show you interest in sinking tax rate is only used for debt. You don't have any record of any debt paying being issued here, so that's all good. You see your tax. Your total tax rate, the levy is cut off there in that picture, but it does want to show the tax levy as well. The next page, which is also very important, is the top 10 taxpayers, and the lenders are always very interested in this for two reasons. One, to see how concentrated you are. One, what's the percentage of your top 10 in the county, and that can mean, well, what happens if that industry goes south? And that might be why your values have gone up and down over the last 20 years, a little bit, because you're heavily in the oil and gas and power industry. So
Depreciation.
that's one concern that the lenders are going to have. It'll be a notch on your credit rating a little bit because you're so focused. Things are out of your control, right? If something really happened, the downturn of the economy, that could lower your values and your wherewithal to pay. So your wherewithal to pay is all based on this values, right? Because that's what you're going to be getting your money on. And then you can see some other demographic information about the overlapping issuers in the county. As you can see, they're mainly all schools, the ones that borrow the most money. on that page, their overlapping debt section, what their percentage of in the county, and outstanding, there's like $87 million of debt outstanding in the county through most of those schools, Buffalo ISD being the biggest, Fairfield ISD being the biggest. Of course,
Was that the
county.
current one on Fairfield? Current bond on Fairfield, ISD?
72.9, that's what they've issued. They might have authorization for other, but that's how much they've issued so far, have outstanding.
Okay.
Okay? And there's a detailed page on your pension history, so you can see this, all this information is out there, that the MAC keeps track of all of issuers. And if you start borrowing money, there'll be a lot more information about you in here, but, so that's sort of giving me an idea about your credit. I got your audit off your website, gone through that, and, so I have a pretty good idea of your wherewithal to borrow. Now, how much is this gonna borrow? Now, I don't know, Judge, you wanna mention some of these numbers that I use in here, because these all are based on assumptions that we talked about.
Yeah, because I noticed on, back on the,
Tax rate?
yeah, where we're looking at the tax rate over the years,
Yes, sir?
where it's got the, on 2023, that one should have been 0.37. We stayed at 0.37 in 2022 and 2023. So, I know that's not a lot, but that's,
Right.
if that means anything, I just want to point that out.
Yeah, the MAC is pretty good, and 95% of their data is right, but every now and then, if you're not borrowing, they don't update your information as accurate. Sometimes it's just because you're not in the market, but, you know, I can let them know that, but, any questions on where all that data came from? Any questions on the data that's there, other than that tax rate?
As far as this page talking about the county pension,
Right.
kind of where we're setting on that right now, is that gonna show negative? Is that gonna affect us any?
No, I mean, it looks to me like, you know, you're well over 90% funded. I think, you know, they expect some liability, until, 4 or 5 years ago, didn't even put that in the audit, right? So all of a sudden now, the financial wizards think that's a real big liability that's important to report in the audit. So now there's 5 or 6 pages in the audit about your pension. So that is a contingent liability, but it looks to me like you're well over, and they're always a year behind, so 24 was the last year, and you're well over 90%. So it's not, you are gonna have a liability, but it doesn't look like it's a big liability.
I mean, we get a lump sum to that as well in this fiscal year.
Okay.
So, I mean, it should benefit us what we've done since.
Right, and yeah, this is a year old already. All right, so let's look at some what ifs. In the last section there, what if we need to borrow $50 million for a new law enforcement center? What, can we do it, and how much would it cost us? So the first thing we did, again, we duplicated that assessed valuation table, and just need to know that the last 10 years, you've had a 2% growth, 5 years, close to 9, and you've had some negative years over the past 25. So this is what the lenders are going to look at, and this is what you're going to base your tax rate on to pay them back. So this is your main source of income, right? And so the up and down is a little bit of concern. The top 10 being 30% in the oil and gas and power industry is a little bit of concern, but I still think you're going to get a solid credit rating. And until we put it together, we don't know, but I think you get a solid credit rating. But that is a concern, and based on that, and then there's your tax rate history. Again, I don't know if you said those are off in 23. It was 37. Again, we just took this from the MAC.
Yeah,
I thought we stayed the same.
We was 21, 3,375, 22, 3,700, 23, 3,700. Then we dropped it 24, 3,219.
I thought we was 3,219. I thought we were. I thought we kept it the same after the first year, 3,219.
We went from 3,219 to we're on now 3,335.
I thought we had 2 years of that. I
No,
really did.
2 years of 3,700.
Okay.
Yeah, it should have been 2023 on here is what it should say.
Okay. All right, so the next page is really the
Mac pay.
tax rate analysis is sort of the last two pages are very important, but how much would it cost us on the tax rate? Well, now, I've got some major assumptions here. This is based on what we talked about. Your current value from last year, 3.8 billion. The judge said that's gonna increase at least 4.5 billion this year and up to 9 billion the following year because of the data center. Now, that means, now, I did some digging on the internet too, and you gave them a tax abatement for 10 years. So even that value is gonna go on your, you're not gonna be able to assess
Right.
taxes on it.
Right.
So this is at a little skewed.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I can tell you, just doing the math, so if we did a $50 million loan, or GO bond, or certificate of obligation, your payments for 20 years at 4.5% are about 3.9 million a year. That's just the math based on 20-year amortization with about a 4.5% interest rate. Okay? And then based on, now, I also know that they're paying you some payment in lieu of taxes. You could use that money toward this payment. So it's not necessarily, but just based on the math, based on your values, that first year, we were gonna do interest only. Let's say if we did this in the middle of the year, you can go a year without principal payment, just for, and sort of wrapping around that growth. So the first year's interest only, that would show almost 6% tax increase, based on a 98% tax collection percentage. It might be a little high, it might be 90, it might be 95, I didn't dug that far into your financials yet.
We're typically, I think at the
95 to 98% tax collection
it's
percentage.
definitely above 95, I think it's.
Yeah, I put it 97.
Yeah, we normally do 98, 95, 98. So that'd be about 6 cents on the tax rate. And then, if your values go up from 3.8 to 4.5 to 9, then that goes down to 4 cents. And this will be a fixed rate for 30, this is I think 20-year amortization. We can go 25 or 30 years to make that payment a little smaller. This is just for discussion purposes. And if you stayed at 3.8 billion and didn't go, then it's about 10 cents the first year and then 8 cents after that. So.
That's if nothing changes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and again, when he recognized that change from 3.8 billion to 4.5, that was just figured, that was figuring the Pickens Planning Alpine on the low end after talking to Don, and then, on the housing development out there. That was just those two factors, that doesn't count anything else, that doesn't count any.
Yeah, but
stock, oil and gas.
what we normally do is like do based on what your 10-year history or your 5-year history, we would do like 2 to 5% a year for 5 years and then just leave it flat. We just did, because of the big increase, 17 to 50% increase, we just left it flat after that for purposes. The only thing on this page that's fixed will be that debt payment. Everything else is valued. Everything's going to change. Your values are going to change. What your INS tax rate for the year is going to change. The debt payment will be fixed though, for the life of the loan. So each year as you set your budget, you know what your payment's going to be.
4 million a year. 4 million.
And then you set your INS tax rate accordingly.
But that's at 4%.
4.5%.
Yeah, 4.44.
So in the end, and the most important question, what is it going to cost the taxpayer, the homeowner? That's the last page. Look at some examples. Based on your taxable value of your home, and on the Google Internet said your median income is $257,050. That's about $153 a year in additional taxes for them, based on that payment and their values. And you can see if it's 100,000 or 500,000, how much that would affect your home property taxes, or your county property taxes. Any questions on any of that?
Okay, so I do have a question.
Okay.
So when we talk about this, the tax rate on year one at our current $3.8 billion taxable value.
Right.
And then if it increases by the roughly $750,000, which that's already there with no no abatements, no pilots, no nothing. So then that's gonna put us at the 4.5. If we stayed at 4.5 and this 9 billion's not added to it because of the pilot, and you said it would be roughly
Right.
10 cents on the first year and 8 cents per
Right,
year.
it would be almost 6 cents the first year and 8 cents the next year.
Okay.
Based on, just say 4.5 flat all the way down. And I can run any scenario you want, I can do 2% increases for 5 years, or 5%, you know, however you, whatever you think is more accurate. This is just based on our discussion the other day, that's a big jump. And then, you know, you could also, I mean, 10 years is a long time, but you could, you know, you could structure your debt a little bit to have less principal payments up front, so that abatement kicks out. That's 10 years, that might be too long to do that. You're gonna pay so much more in interest if you're deferring principal that long. But if you knew it was coming in 3 or 4 years, we could bump those values up a little higher and defer the payments a little bit. But if you do it 10 years, you're paying way too much interest to defer it.
Yeah, I do too. And the other thing about the 10-year deal, you know, there's nothing saying that, you know, Big Brown, they quit paying taxes and then they wind up filing bankruptcy. I don't know how many years that this county went, we didn't get a single dime from them. So you gotta look at the fact that these pilots are only as good as those companies were. You know, there's no 100% guarantee that we're going, you know, they're not putting that money in something that guarantees us that, you know. So we can't, I just don't think we can 100% rely on, and it's that market, you know, that's a new market. That's something that nobody can predict. Nobody can even tell me, are these data centers going to still be in existence in 15 years from now? Will there be a better technology, a better mousetrap, and, you know, where they're going to be at? So I just don't think that we rely on something that we don't have no guarantee that we're going to get. Again, there are other things that are going to increase our taxable base.
Yeah.
I mean, just like the pipeline that we released the bond on today and the other one that's to get built, that's going to increase the taxable value of the county. Not to mention what else will be completed in construction-wise, you know, on that development, each town.
Sand bid.
Yeah, there's several things that are happening. But
One thing, the legislature makes every 2 years. When I got elected, you could go up on your tax rate 8.5%. And now we're capped at 3.5%. And now they're talking about 0.
yeah.
Without going for voter approval.
Which would make sense to get something in place before that happens.
Right. And every year they talk about structuring and restricting how much you can increase your INS taxes also, even though they haven't done it yet. Right now, if you borrow money and you pledge the INS taxes to pay that, they're not restricting you on that. If you've made an obligation to pay that debt.
Right.
So you have the authority to raise that tax rate to cover your debt payment without any restriction from the state yet.
Yeah.
Right. They came back in two sessions ago, defined on what you could borrow, the statute say what you can borrow for. If you borrowed it for certain things, you could use INS tax. If you borrowed for something that wasn't one of those things, then it had to go to the M&O tax, which they do control how much you can increase. So, and every year they jack with that. But right now, if you borrow money or anything, and you can pledge INS taxes, you can keep pledging INS taxes without any constraint from the state. I don't know how they would change that, because all these governing bodies around the state have pledged debt, and pledged taxes to do that. So I don't know how they could even, they can just do new debt. They can say, oh, you can only do this, borrow for this specific, like a courthouse, you cannot issue just strict courthouse INS debt unless you go to a vote. They're requiring you to take that to a vote. And all schools, they have to take their stuff to a vote.
Right.
I already did the schools that way. But they control a lot more funding in the schools than they do. So,
Looking back at this chart, I wonder why, and what year are you coming off, what?
23, 22 or 23. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
1922 or 23?
thinking, yeah, I think it was either 2 or 3.
So in 2008, why did the county, why was the taxes split? Why was there an M and O and an INS?
What page you want?
It's-
On back on the chart?
Yeah, back on
This
the
one?
chart right there.
Oh, I think they just reported it wrong. Well, did they have a road tax? No, there is a separate, counties can elect to have a separate road tax enacted. But I don't know if that's what happened. We have to go back and look.
I'm just curious, because, I mean, I understand why the school does it. This is a way for them to not have to send so much money off.
Right.
And I wouldn't figure the county would have done it had there not been something going on. It just kind of,
What year?
2008.
Oh, the 8 cents, 8.5 cents?
Again, what happened that year in 2008?
Because of most of it was, the taxes went up and down because of the oil.
Oh, yeah, that was the budget, it was
It was booming, when it was booming, we lowered the tax rate to help the people.
That was the peak, that's,
That's when
That was the highest.
economy, 2008.
That was almost the
Yeah, right
highest
before,
year.
yeah, right before the crisis, right?
Yeah, right before
Yeah.
you couldn't even buy gas.
Yeah, look at your
You
values
couldn't
went from
buy gas, 2008.
$1 billion to 5.3.
good time for, really. That was good years.
You might have done that to do some road work.
yeah, I just, it just kind of stood out. I'm just
I
curious.
think that's when all that oil
Just
sands.
That's what we try to do.
road
When
work.
money was good, we try to pass that on to the taxpayers, and when, that's just what we try to do, is help the taxpayers. But if we got plenty of money, we don't need to tax the taxpayers, you know what I'm saying, if we get that revenue coming in, so that's why it went up and down.
It might have been a road project, I mean, think about it. 9 point, was it, 9 million?
Yeah, I looked at that with the plan, all that years.
That's when they got the,
Big, yeah.
that's when they got down on that house. Yeah, some of the roads, that makes sense, like that. I mean,
It was like, there's over $4 million you could have dedicated to road work.
Yeah, that's right. And on the, going back to the, if we stayed stagnant or had minimal, taxable value growth after, 2027. You know, when you and I discussed this, you know, the whole goal was that when these valuations come in, that could lower the tax rate. You know, and I think at the time we were talking hopefully 10 or 11 cents, and then if the bond come in at 10 or 11 cents, it'd be an offset. But I want to make sure that I'm clear that with these figures right here, this would be what the additional taxable value could have lowered the tax rate, and then this would be basically getting back to where we are now, plus an additional 4 cents.
This is an additional tax rate.
So this is 4 cents with our offset. So whatever this would have changed if we wasn't doing this loan, like I said, maybe it lowered it 8 cents hypothetically. We need that 8 cents plus 4 more.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just for the debt payment. Right. And I can redo this, and I mean, you wanna set this to 3.8, with a 5% increase for 5 years, you know, just to show you, but it's probably gonna be in the 8 to 10% range, more than likely. If you don't go to 9 billion.
Right.
And that's taxable value, not
Correct.
total assessed value.
Sure.
But just like if you look on that one page where it has assessed valuation, there's 2 columns. One says market value, and one says assessed value. So it's the free amount after freeze, you know, what you're actually setting your budget
Yeah,
on.
it's taxable only. The people that
Yeah,
don't have to pay taxes, their numbers are not in there.
the number going in there, right. It doesn't matter how much this column really goes up to. If this goes up to 9, this is still 4, that's what you're setting your tax rate on, the 4.
Yeah.
Any questions?
time-wise, where we stand right now,
Okay?
do we have time to get this on the November ballot and everything?
Oh, absolutely. You gotta figure out what it is, you have to go to
What
the,
we're gonna spend it on?
you have to go to the not to exceed amount.
What'd you say, August?
This is like first 2 weeks of August, there's a 2-week period, the state election.
Yeah, that you can get something on the ballot.
Get some on the ballot.
Right.
So you need to have your not to exceed amount by that day. And then you need a bond lawyer to do all the election stuff with you and give you the wording.
Okay, so it's a bond lawyer that
Bond
would help
counsel.
us as far as with the public, the explanations, the little flyers that these school districts have put out showing
Right.
this is what it's gonna do to the tax rate, this is what it's gonna affect, like you showed us on a $250,000 median is a
Right.
$153 additional cost per year to that person.
Right, right. And then, well, they do all the legal stuff, they, you know, so part of their job is you're barring, because the Constitution dictates it, everything you have to do from every county commissioner's court meeting following election to approve the bond sale to canvass an election and all that, so that, all that's dictated by the Constitution, they just sort of make sure you comply with all the state laws. And then they have to get Attorney General approval, and Comptroller has to certify every issue that's out there, so they take you through all that process as well. As far as the flyers, when we give you samples of that, we put in the dollar sections of that. We have a lot of samples of that. The bond lawyer doesn't necessarily create that, that's more what you made the jail consultant could do. So this is what we're building, this is how much it's gonna cost, and then we sort of say, this is what the projected tax implications, would be, based on that value, based on those values. You're not guaranteeing a tax rate, you're just guaranteeing you can only borrow X amount of money, and you're gonna pay for it based on your values. And that's what your tax rate's gonna be, because it's based on those assumptions that we've used.
What type of lawyer was that again?
Bond counsel lawyer, there's firms that just do that kind of work, I can give you 3 or 4 names. We don't, they work for
bid
you.
on it just like a contractor, get the.
They work contingent fee just like we do, so they don't bill you until the very end. If the bond election doesn't pass, you don't pay us. If we bring a thing to you and it just rates 8%, you don't wanna do it, you don't have to, you still say no. Yeah, yeah.
So this is figured on 50 million.
Correct.
Is it stays that order, if it's over 50 million, is it gonna go?
No, I mean, you have to decide a not to exceed amount to get voter authorization for.
So, and that's something we wouldn't do until we've got,
Plans.
Yeah.
architect and.
We don't even know.
You go out for bid based
Yeah.
on what you choose from your architect.
So you asked me, can you be ready by August? Depends on the jail consultant and architect. For me, I'm ready. But you have to
We
get
gotta
to
figure out how much we need.
you gotta get to a not to exceed amount. You gotta have to vote, ask the voters not to exceed. And if it comes in more than that, then you either have to do additional election or additional debt issuance outside of that. So we need to have some options so you could get it within that. And you could maybe do a second phase to come back and do that. You could do potentially a certificate of obligation or something for that other issue, depending on what it was.
Like we didn't know 100% what we want before we.
No, yeah, we got
Yeah.
it.
So I mean, it sounded like a lot of time, but with those, it's gonna take a while.
I haven't even talked with the sheriff last night about that assessment bill. So it had to be done.
Hasn't actually done it yet. You've done the assessment.
No.
Jail commission's supposed to be giving us assessment on how many beds they think
But it's
a
got to
new
be,
jail, a new jail should be.
the information.
They have to be involved too.
From here first.
To authorize you to do this, jail commission. They have to certify that this is, what the county needs, and that you're not just gonna go build some type of hall. You can't build a jail plan to lease out beds either, that, they don't allow that. So it's gotta be for your needs and for your size and within those parameters. So they have to sign off, this is appropriate for your county.
If the voters don't approve, we go after, we don't do the Leon County deal, we go voter approval.
When they say no,
That's all up.
And it fails.
People's gotta decide.
you gotta wait 3 years
And-
to do a CO. You can go back and do another election every May, not
But if
May.
it fails, who do we owe?
Nobody. The only thing that you would be subject to is if we get to the point to where we go and get a credit rating. That's gonna be a $15,000 to $30,000 expense, probably depending on how much you borrow again. And they issue the credit rating, then you owe them the money, okay? We probably wouldn't do that till the thing passed, right? But if you were like, okay, we're gonna have election in November, we wanna borrow money in December, which I did that for another county, then we queued up the rating just in case. Okay, and so we could issue in December. Cause they wanna take advantage of, it might work, there's, when you borrow, there's, you know, when you borrow for a house, there's a jumbo mortgage. If you borrow over a certain amount, in the tax-exempt bond market, if you borrow more than $10 million, there's bank qualified is under 10 million and non-bank qualified is over 10 million. So if you could borrow 10 million up front, the interest rates are lower. So for this county, they knew what the project was, and we borrowed 10 million in December, and we came back in March and borrowed the balance. And it saved them $300,000 or $400,000 in interest. So there is some of that consideration, and so we were queued up on that credit rating, and that was the case. They felt Comm was gonna pass, and so, that fee would be, you would have to pay that fee at the bond election page. That's the only fee.
So you pay that fee, and then you're gonna need that, credit certification even.
It's only good for about 6 months,
That's not.
because then your financials change. Then you have another audit done, and then, and then the borrowing amount might change, so they get another fee, but out of 50 million, it's
Gonna charge as much.
20 to 30,000. Something, it's based on how much you borrow, but $10,000 to $50,000, somewhere in that range, depending on how much you borrow.
So what did you say, if it doesn't pass 3 years?
The certificate, if you want to come back and do a certificate of obligation, you have to wait 3 years
Or certificate?
before you can do a certificate of
But
obligation.
you can come back and put it on the.
You can put on every
year, you said.
you can vote every year if you want.
But it's just gonna get higher and higher, more bills and everything's gonna go up. What did it double down in Robertson County?
2018 to 2025.
Theirs is 29 million
29.
when they started, when they built that.
19.
Hmm?
19. Because he said the same one would cost 38 today.
No,
That's what they told us at Wake Up.
COVID
I
exponential.
don't know,
COVID
all the
made that
people,
grow.
I was doing a lot of work down there, and they were talking about the $29 million jail, so I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I was going off of, all the people that were mad.
Yeah. Well, that's the last thing you want is to get into something and then,
Yeah.
I mean, if several don't spend this money, we should not spend a penny of it.
And you have to pretty much decide, we're gonna live, this is what we're gonna get, we're gonna $50 million jail, whatever we get for it, that's what we're gonna build, or whatever the number is. So you need to sort of vet that through, with your architects and all that before you come to us with the amount.
I guess in doing something like that, who represents the county?
If what?
Who within the county is there to make sure that the architect and the builder is doing what they're supposed to do and they're not?
The only county engineer, I guess, is what would work with them mostly, if you have one.
We're not here to create jobs.
Yeah. Well, they work for the court. So, I mean, ultimately,
What was, Jim Franks?
Hanks,
No.
Hanks.
Jim Hanks.
We were looking at him being our county representative for
Right.
restoration. I just didn't know if that was another thing that you got to figure in, or that's up to us.
it's up to you to monitor. Any of your contractors that do work for the county, building a bridge or whatever, you got somebody that's gonna be overseeing them, or the jail. I mean, I would think the architect, you would
Like a
be,
company man, you know, Rick.
you're gonna be pretty, tight with the jail consultant or architect. They're the ones gonna be managing the project.
Oh,
Let's say, Dan, I appreciate all your efforts and what you brought us today, because it's I like it, and scared to death. But I do feel, I understand it better. I say it's nothing I've ever been part of.
We gotta get that assessment done.
Well, you know, this is figured on 50, and whatever we can get back of that, then you can back off.
And I think they go just sort of, they give you these ballpark estimates based on number of beds, right? And they have these metrics that they come up with. 48 bed jail costs this, and a nice if bad jail costs this or something. I mean, I don't know exactly where that number came from, but,
Yeah. Well, that was me talking to Gary,
yeah,
and him saying what they were building. I don't think we need a 192 bed jail. That's extra large, but
Yeah.
that's what they were doing out in Plainview. And then but you know, it depends on who you ask, because I asked him, you know, on the admin side of it, where you don't have no jail cells, what's the average cost per square foot? He said, you know, it's just like building a house. He said, you can build a fancy house, you can build a plain house. And he said, you can figure 200, 400.
Right.
We asked a different architect yesterday, and they told us 400 to 800, depending on how nice you want the courtroom and stuff, you know. So
right. And then the money you're spending now shipping prisoners, that's gonna come back to you, right? Once you.
Well, there's a lot we're spending right now, not just the shipping. but
Yeah, once it's built, now there'll be some time we have both.
transportation, and then, just the housing cost in 7 other counties.
Yeah, and some of the counties that we did, if you can lock in a rate in those other counties, how much they're gonna charge you, and lock in for 20 years, do it, and you know what it is, they won't do it, right? So,
I do feel that we're going to be over that threshold where we have to have a full-time nurse, or however you say that.
What's population now? I mean, I know we had a bunch of TDC ready, but wasn't it about 90?
Yeah, I checked it, well, I got 2 different deals. One of them said 104, one of them said 89. I asked the sheriff last night, he said it's the 89. But 5 come off of that, so we're about 85 right now. But it usually is right around 90.
Well, if you're going to project for the future, there's probably gonna be more out there in the future.
It would be nice to,
120, I mean, you don't want to build it to be full the next day, so, I mean.
right,
but if you're gonna get over that threshold where you have to have a nurse, whatever that typically costs nowadays, it'd be nice to have enough beds where you could take somebody else's and cover the cost. If you just said, yeah, we need 10 beds, 10 additional beds, it's gonna cost us X up front. But if the monies from those 10 beds paid for that nurse, which we've never had to pay for, which should save us money long, because I mean, look at the medical bills, look at these little ambulance rides that's costing us to go from here 5 blocks, you know?
right,
And you may not have to do that.
right. And nobody likes building a jail, I mean, that's always the downside, it seems like, the public perception. But the one thing you can say is, the only thing on all the scenario that's fixed would be that debt payment. And you know exactly what's gonna cost you for the debt, for the building the jail, not operating the jail, but building the jail. So you don't have that variable of shipping prisoners and how much each of these counties is gonna charge me over the next 20 years. That's totally out of your control. And it's always, and that money's staying here in the county rather than shipping it out. So yeah, it is a big number, but it is keeping all the money, you taking care of your responsibility and you paying for it here rather than renting. It's a mortgage rather than renting, and that's a good way to look at it.
When we look at utilities and repairs,
Jail personnel.
yeah, it takes us more jailers. We're not at that where one jailer can oversee X amount of inmates. We have to have more to oversee the same amount as, per se, like Limestone County's jail.
I checked last night, the jailers that we have housing 43 can house 140.
For the same amount of jailers.
Same amount of.
That's where we're locked right there.
Oh, wow.
And it's also, it affects how you build it with your pods and everything.
I think the ratio is 1 to 32.
I think higher than that.
I thought it was 48, if you laid it out right, it's 48.
Is it 48 now?
And having those additional, having some cells that are set up for the mental,
No.
that we keep seeing more and more
Right.
inmates with a mental problem.
And I
And
think
we
the jail
don't, there's
commission.
nothing to offer them here, but the state ain't, you know,
Right.
nowhere to take them.
And the jail commission has their standards, right, how many men's and women's and holding and everything that they do. That's above my pay grade.
Ben, I appreciate it.
I
Everybody's
appreciate
got
that.
your card and
We appreciate the opportunity, and, you know, we'd like you to consider hiring us, putting us on the team. Again, it doesn't cost you anything. I can send you a contract, review it. It's a, like I said, professional service contingent fee. That way I can just keep doing this for you as many times as you want, and be here whenever you need me to talk, and like to consider it.
Appreciate your time.
Just say, look it over the people that you've done a lot of work right here in our vicinity too, so.
Yes, sir.
Sure, Clyde will check.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, man, appreciate it.
All right.
Any other discussion on item number 12? If not, no action on item number 12. Any comments from Commissioner Court?
2 chili suppers this weekend on Saturday, one at Kerwin, one at Southern Oak. Starts at 4, I think the one in Kerwin starts about 4 or so, and the one at Southern Oak starts about 4:30 or so, 5, something like that. So if anybody's interested in going and eating chili, buying cakes.
All right.
Welcome with you.
I say.
Motion second, all in favor, aye. Thank you, Chairman.